Scream wasn't just another meta-slasher revival. Behind the masks and the phone calls, there was a different movie, one the studio almost didn't release. A version with more blood, a darker ending, and scenes that got locked away because test audiences walked out. What most people don't realize is that the film you saw in theaters was the compromise, the safe version. These are 12 creepiest facts about Scream, and hidden in them is the shocking truth that an original, bleaker ending was filmed and then buried by Miramax. The opening kill with Drew Barrymore was supposed to be even more brutal. According to crew reports, Wes Craven shot additional footage of Casey's body being discovered, intestines visible, organs hanging from the tree. The MPAA threatened an NC-17 rating if they kept it in, so they cut around it. What you see now is quick cuts and shadows. Here's the scary part. The full footage still exists in Dimension's vault, and it's never been officially released. Why hide it after all these years? Because even now, it's too much. And that was just the warm-up. Drew Barrymore was originally cast as Sidney Prescott, the lead. She was locked in. Contracts were being drawn up. Then 2 weeks before filming, she called Craven with a different idea. Kill her off in the first 10 minutes instead. She wanted to shock audiences the way Psycho did with Janet Leigh. The studio panicked. They were banking on her star power, carrying the whole film. But Craven loved it. He rewrote the script in 72 hours. That's the trick. That opening scene became legendary because it was never supposed to exist. Which brings us to the casting fallout. Once Barrymore left the lead role, the studio wanted a name. Reese Witherspoon was offered Sidney. So was Brittany Murphy. Both passed. The truth is, nobody thought a self-aware slasher would work in 1996. Horror was dead. Franchises were jokes. Neve Campbell was a TV actress on Party of Five with no film heat. Miramax didn't want her, but Craven fought for it, and the studio finally caved, mostly because they were running out of time. Campbell signed for scale pay, around $20,000. The movie made $173 million worldwide, and this is where it gets weird. Kevin Williamson's original script was called Scary Movie. That's what it was titled when it sold. But Miramax hated the name, said it sounded like a comedy, so they renamed it Scream 2 months before release. Behind that decision was test screening data. Audiences didn't know what tone to expect. Some laughed, some screamed. The studio wanted a title that promised straight horror. Here's the problem. Williamson's screenplay was already circulating in Hollywood under Scary Movie, and the Wayans brothers later bought the rights to that title for their parody franchise. The irony. Scream was the parody. It was mocking slashers while being one. The name change saved it from being misunderstood, or maybe it didn't. Now, Ghostface's voice was supposed to be different. The studio wanted someone recognizable, a known actor doing a growl or a whisper. Roger Jackson, the guy who actually did it, was just brought in to read lines off camera during auditions, so the actors had something to react to. But his voice, calm, taunting, almost polite, freaked everyone out. Craven kept him. The catch. Jackson was never on set. He recorded every phone call separately in a sound booth, sometimes calling the actors on real phones, so their fear was genuine. Campbell didn't meet him until the premiere. That cold distance shows in her performance. The fear is real because the voice was a ghost to her too. And that fear fed into the biggest studio battle. The MPAA demanded cuts 12 times, 12 separate submissions. Every death scene was flagged. Tatum's garage door kill? Too graphic. Principal Himbry's stabbing? Too long. The closet door kill? Too sadistic. Craven and editor Patrick Lussier spent weeks trimming frames, literally single frames, off each stab to satisfy the board. But behind that process was a trick. Craven shot everything extra violent, knowing he'd have to cut it, so the version he wanted would look tame by comparison. What most people don't realize is that the uncut version on home video still isn't the original footage. There's a work print circulating among collectors that's 14 minutes longer and drenched in blood. The studio locked it away because the next part is worse. There was a different ending. In Williamson's first draft, Sidney didn't survive. Stu and Billy killed her, framed her father, and got away with it. The movie ended with the two killers watching the news report their success, laughing. Test audiences hated it. They felt betrayed. Miramax demanded a rewrite. So Craven and Williamson flipped it. Sidney fights back. She wins. She shoots Billy in the head. That final girl's survival became iconic. But here's the twist. They still shot pieces of the darker ending. Not the whole thing, but parts. Crew members claimed there's footage of Sidney lying dead in the kitchen while police arrive. Dimension never confirmed it. And this is where the studio interference gets personal. Matthew Lillard's performance as Stu was supposed to be toned down. The studio thought he was too much, too manic, too big, too theatrical. They asked Craven to rein him in or recast. Craven refused. The truth is, Lillard was improvising half his lines. The whole, "my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me," breakdown, ad-libbed. The liver joke, made up on the day. Skeet Ulrich, who played Billy, reportedly got frustrated because Lillard kept stealing scenes. That tension worked. It made Billy feel cold and Stu feel unhinged. What you're watching is barely controlled chaos. Now watch this. The house party climax was filmed in a real house in Tamales Bay, California. The production rented it for 3 weeks. By the end, the place was destroyed. Fake blood stained the floors. Walls were dented. Windows cracked. The owner tried to sue Dimension Films for damages, claiming the contract didn't cover complete demolition. The case was settled quietly for an undisclosed amount, rumored to be mid-6 figures. Some crew members said you could still smell the fake blood weeks later, cold copper and corn syrup. That stale air made every night shoot feel cursed, and it nearly got worse. Rose McGowan, who played Tatum, broke her wrist during the garage door scene. The motorized door malfunctioned and came down too fast, slamming her arm into the frame. She kept filming. The shot where her arm goes limp, that's real pain. Craven didn't realize she was injured until after the take. Reports say McGowan finished the scene, went to the hospital, came back in a cast, and shot her final screaming close-ups the next day. The studio wanted to replace her. She refused to leave. Here's the scary part. That garage door is still used as a teaching example in stunt safety courses as what not to do. Which brings us to the kill that almost didn't happen. The video store scene, where Randy explains the rules, was almost cut entirely. Miramax thought it was too inside baseball, that audiences wouldn't care about slasher tropes. But Craven knew that scene was the movie. It told you exactly what Scream was doing while doing it. He threatened to walk if they cut it. The studio relented, but made him trim it by 40 seconds. What's missing? Randy's original rant included references to A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th by name. But New Line and Paramount threatened legal action, so they dubbed in vague lines like, "that one with the guy in the mask." The self-awareness survived, but just barely. And that leads to the final secret. Number 12. There's a lost prologue. Williamson wrote a cold open set in 1969. Woodstock Festival. A girl gets killed in a phone booth. The killer vanishes into the crowd. It was meant to establish that Ghostface was a legacy, a myth that came back every generation. Craven shot it as a test. It cost $300,000. The studio watched it and cut it immediately. Too confusing, too expensive, too disconnected from the main story. The footage was never finished. No music, no color correction, just raw dailies. Some editors claim it's sitting in a Miramax storage facility in New Jersey, labeled Scream Deleted Prologue, Do Not Release. Why bury it? Because it would have changed the entire franchise. Ghostface wouldn't be Billy and Stu. It would be anyone. A curse, a cycle, and the sequels wouldn't make sense. So here's the truth. Scream became legendary not because it was perfect, but because it survived. Every cut, every fight, every compromise made it sharper. The studio tried to sand down the edges, and Craven smuggled the danger back in through performance, pacing, and that cold, whispering voice on the West phone. The movie you love almost didn't exist, and the one they buried might have been even better. Thanks for watching. Hit like, drop a comment with your favorite fact, and subscribe for more creepy movie secrets.